Well, I know over the last few weeks, we've brought you a lot of interesting segments on different kinds of art, historians and painters, Indian artists, and that kind of stuff. And today we have with us Darrell Knoch, a famous author here in Arizona. In fact, he actually lives here in Arizona, which is great. Darrell, welcome to Flagstaff.
Thank you.
We're here at Hastings. We've been gracious enough to give us space to interview you today, and we thank them. Darrell, to start off with, tell us something about Darrell Knoch.
Okay, I'll be glad to. I grew up in the ghetto of Chicago. I'm not from Arizona originally. I was born in Michigan, but I grew up in the ghetto of Chicago. My dad had left my mother several times throughout my life. He came home long enough just to get her pregnant, and then he'd take off again. And so I'm the youngest of 7 children. And based on her education, she only had a 9th grade education. She worked in the kitchen at the local school, and she also cleaned the school in the evenings. And it was a small town when that we were right there on the edge of Chicago, and it was a small school that she was working in. So it wasn't enough for us to make it without being on welfare. So we grew up on welfare when I was a kid. And when I was about a year old, my older sister, which was 11 at the time, I started running out for the road. And she came running after me to catch me from going out into the road. And she literally tripped on the sidewalk and fell on my head. And she crushed my face into the cement. So we were on welfare at the time, so this was 56 years ago, and we couldn't afford to get my face fixed, so I grew up with a crushed face and a crushed nose. I had my first surgery at age 16, and then I had another surgery at 40, and a third surgery at 42. It's kind of a little joke. I tell people it took 16 hours of surgery to get me to look this pretty. But I grew up pretty angry because kids were no kinder back then than they are today. With a crushed face and a crushed nose, I got a lot of people calling me pug face, pug nose, you name it. I was given a variety of nicknames, and so that made me even angrier as people would give me all of that grief, and I would get into fights all the time. That got me into more trouble. I grew up, so to speak, what you might call the troubled teen from the ghetto of Chicago. And I was spunky because of all of that ribbing. It makes you spunky. But I really had a very poor self-esteem. I really had low self-confidence. I didn't really understand that I could make a dramatic difference in my life. And at age 22, my older brother gave me a set of Zig Ziglar tapes. And that set of tapes really changed my life. I remember listening to that first hour. It was a 6-hour set of tapes, and I was listening to that first hour of the cassette tape at the time. And within 10 minutes, Zig was saying something that I thought, he's going to try to sell me something. I just know he is. And then 10 minutes later, he was saying something else and about that I needed to listen to this set of tapes 16 times in order to really get the value. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to listen to this thing 16 times. I'm not sure I'm going to make it through the first full time. And then, fortunately, I listened to that full hour, and by the end of that hour, he had me. And I knew at that point I was a very negative, very low self-esteem. I really needed to change my view of me, and I really needed to change my view of what my prospects of life would be. And so I said to myself, I'm going to become a student of human nature. I'm going to really learn what makes me tick, what makes everyone tick, what will make me change my life so that I become a success. And I literally engulfed myself in educating myself from that point on. And I also really started raising my self-esteem dramatically because of all that education. And I went on to become a very successful business person. I have taken 5 companies, national and international, literally to the point of generating more than $3 billion in 35 years of being in business.
Yeah, great success story. Great success story. I know I read your book, and thank you for the copy of it.
You're welcome.
It's tremendous, absolutely tremendous. You know, I started reading, I couldn't put it down. I just had to read more and more and more of it. In fact, I even went through and highlighted
I see that.
a bunch of areas that I want to go back to and really take a look at. And a lot of them I already implemented in my life. I've been successful in my life, but you reinforced a lot of things that I took for granted.
Yeah.
And to the public out there, the people watching this program, you've got to get this book. What Darrell has done, he's taken the meat, in my opinion, the meat out of the other books he's read and put them in his book. So you're getting rid of all the pages you got to turn in order to get at the meat of stuff, because Darrell's put it right here for you. And it's so power-packed. I know what I'm going to do is to refresh the things that I do and go by chapter, Darrell, and re-implement a lot of things that you talk about, because if I try to do everything at once, I'd never get it done, I don't think.
Well, that's why I called it a guidebook. Because as a guidebook, you use it as a cookbook, if you would. A day-to-day, step-by-step process, because changing your life is not an overnight process.
Right.
Changing your mindset doesn't happen overnight. And so it has to be considered. You have to make that determination. I'm going to be different than the rest of the world. I mean, here's a fact of life that I'm sure you know, but it has really been a terrible misjustice, but it's life. 97% of every American dies broke on a fixed income. 97%.
Wow.
We have to change our lives if we don't want to end up that way. None of us intend to end up that way, but the fact of the matter is 97% of us are dying broke. And that's part of my mission, is to change that number. We need to change our attitudes. I mean, one of the reasons that I decided to write the book was, as I had retired at age 54, and I was watching a lot of people, my human nature study. I just watch people. I love to watch people. And I saw, the world economy has gone down the tubes. The politicians, are arguing back and forth in Washington, and it's like they care more about whether they get reelected, versus are we doing what's right for our country. And I said, I need to write a book that lifts the spirit of America, lifts the spirit of the world, and gives them a guidebook, the tools to step by step take themselves back to having prosperity again. Because prosperity is out there if we learn how to grab it and take a hold of it.
Yes, one of the things that you write about several times in your book, you mentioned, is sharing success. That's an important guideline, isn't it?
I really believe that, one of the things that has been key in my life, and I have a little statement that I talk about, one of the reasons I have always been so successful is I learned to care more about my customer than I cared about the money. I felt like if I gave more of myself, and that's what I would ask the world to do, don't just give what's necessary to get by, give more. Give that little bit extra, because that's what will come giving back to you. So if we give more, we'll receive more. It's a law of life that it just happens. If you give little and you scrimp and save and you never give anything to another person, then you don't get much back. But there's always someone that has less than you do. And to me, that has been one of the gifts I've been given, is when I do something for another human being that can't do anything back for me again, that is so rewarding. And if people will just try that, just do something for someone else with no expectation of getting it back again. I always did more than my customers ever asked me to do, and they wanted to give me more business. They always wanted to give me more.
That really contributes to your self-esteem when you feel that you've really done something worthwhile.
Without a doubt. I mean, you know, you can't do something for someone else and they say, thank you so much for what you've done for me, that you don't feel really good inside about that, the fact that you like the fact that you did that for someone, but then the fact that they said thank you, they said, hey, I noticed and I really appreciate what you've done. That raises your self-esteem more than almost anything you can do.
Darrell, when we come back, I want to ask you about the gratitude coin.
I'll be glad
and
to.
Tell me some stories about that.
It's said that altitude is but a frame of mind. Altitudes can be found amongst the pines. Altitude's Bar and Grill, that is. Choice location, warm atmosphere, great food for any occasion. Altitude's Bar and Grill, renowned for their top shelf live entertainment, blended with countless parties and celebrations. Altitude's is located at the top of South Beaver Street in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's rumored that the libations and vibrations are a peak attraction. Hey, stop by, say hi, tell them Cowboy Bob sent you. That's Altitude's Bar and Grill, overlooking historic Route 66 in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Destroy bad radio. Listen to Rock 107. Today's best music, Rock 107.
Hi. Paw Placement in Northern Arizona was formed in 2006 to assist the Coconino Humane Association with the overflow of animals. So we are an all-volunteer, all-foster-based organization. We don't have a shelter. And this is our new adoption center at the Flagstaff Mall called Rescue Me Pet Adoption Center. And we take animals at risk. So we take them from Coconino Humane, put them in foster homes, and adopt them out. Rescue Me Pet Adoption Center.
We're back with Darrell Knoch, who has written this book about mastering a healthy self-image. And in the book, Darrell talks about a grateful coin, a gratitude coin, the ability to say thank you to people. Darrell, tell us about that.
You know, I was driving down the road. I had just finished doing a seminar that I was teaching in Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. I lived in Chattanooga at the time. And so as I was driving down the road, I was daydreaming. I happen to think daydreaming is a wonderful exercise, and I talk about that in the book, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so I was daydreaming, and I was thinking to myself, you know, you have built a wonderful life for yourself. You've had some misfortune in life, but you've always overcome it. And so, you know, you've got a spectacular life, but you keep thinking about, what am I going to do next that's going to take me to that next level of success? And if I were here, I was daydreaming about being here. Mm-hmm. And if I were here, I was daydreaming about being here. And I said, you know, you've got to remember to be grateful for today. Because if you live in today with passion, your day is much more full. And so I said, I need an anchor. I need something that will touch me every day, that will remind me to be more grateful for everything that I've been given. And I said, I've got it. I'm going to put a coin together that says gratitude coin on one side, and on the other side it says, I am grateful for, and then that be the question that I ask myself every day. What am I grateful for today? Which reminds me today what to be grateful for. And so I said, this is great. I'm going to do this. I pulled over the side of the road and I designed that coin, and as soon as I designed that coin, I said, I can touch the world. I can mass produce these coins, and I can give them out to people every day that do really nice things for me. Like if I'm in a restaurant and somebody that's serving me is doing a great job, they have a great smile, I can give them that coin and say, I really appreciate the job that you've given me. I really appreciate that you gave me that wonderful smile and that wonderful attitude. And I want you to have this coin so that you'll remember that I made a point of letting you know I appreciated what you did for me. And so I said, I can mass produce these and give them out to the world as I go through the world every day. And over the course of the last 7 years, I have given out more than 15,000 coins. Wow. And most of them, just personally, I handed them to people, but now I've started getting schools using my coin, where they're actually using the coin for the students to pass back and forth to each other, noticing and pointing out grateful things that the students are doing for each other. And they say, here's a coin because I'm grateful for the fact that you helped me do my test today, or you helped me with my homework yesterday. Variety of things. You picked up the trash when you didn't need to, and I appreciate you being a good citizen of our class. And so it has filled me. I tell people, even though I think I've touched the world a lot with these coins, it has touched me even more because it has given so much back to me.
Yeah, from my experience with this kind of thing, and saying I'm grateful or thank you goes a long ways, Darrell, and you're doing a great job. I know that it's a domino effect.
It is.
If you do something good to me, then I'm kind of compelled to do something good for somebody else. And,
absolutely.
And it goes right down the row, hopefully.
You know, there was a movie out several years ago called Pay It Forward.
Yes.
And, you know, that had a tremendous effect on my life also. And I look at this coin as a way that I can pay it forward. What I do is I tell people, if you go on my website, I will send you this coin for free, because I want to give you the gift of gratitude, because I know it will make you a happier person. And I tell everybody, I'll send you one coin for free, but we always send two, because I say gratitude is a gift, pass it on.
That's a very good way to lead your life and have an impact, a domino effect affecting people. You've alluded to dreaming. How important is it for someone to dream?
I think it is massively important for someone to dream, because dreaming builds enthusiasm. If you have enthusiasm for a project or for your life or for whatever it is, then enthusiasm will fuel your ability to make it happen. And so if you don't daydream and you don't dream, then you aren't going to build that enthusiasm. You're not going to build that passion for whatever it is. And so I literally go through a process of teaching people how to dream, how to write it down, how to make goals, and how to build passion, and how to get yourself to take action so that you do accomplish more in life than you otherwise would.
Yeah, I know in school, and reflecting back to when I was a kid, and they would say, Joe, there you go, daydreaming again, get back to work. But you know, I think that, like you said, that daydreaming is important to realize, to kind of plan in your life or look ahead in your life of what if you could be. It's kind of like the recent one we're doing right now that all of America seems to be involved in, is the Mega Million.
Right.
And people have bought a ticket. I'm sure that they thought, now, when I didn't think if, when I win that $640 million, what am I going to do with it?
Exactly.
And it made them feel good for those moments they were talking about it, while they were dreaming about it. I think dreaming, I agree with you. As the more I think about it, it's not a waste of time. It's a good effort. At least it keeps your mind occupied.
Well, I do a 2-day seminar that I put on, a live event for people to come in and spend 2 full days with me. And I call it Self-Esteem to Prosperity. Learn to dream, visualize, and make it happen. So I believe that the dreaming and visualizing is the precursor of making it happen. So that's why I say I think it is massively important. Daydream your success. Don't daydream about negativity. Daydream your success and then make it happen.
When you talk about daydreaming and then you talk about setting goals, when we come back, I'd like to have you tell us about how to set goals and how does that connect with daydreaming. I know one thing that I use on one of my business cards is I tell kids to shoot for the moon.
Absolutely.
And if you miss, you're still among the stars.
That's right. That's right.
And coming back. Hi. Paw Placement in Northern Arizona was formed in 2006 to assist the Coconino Humane Association with the overflow of animals. So we are an all-volunteer, all-foster-based organization. We don't have a shelter. And this is our new adoption center at the Flagstaff Mall called Rescue Me Pet Adoption Center. And we take animals at risk. So we take them from Coconino Humane, put them in foster homes, and adopt them out. Rescue Me Pet Adoption Center.
It's said that altitude is but a frame of mind. Altitudes can be found amongst the pines. Altitude's Bar and Grill, that is. Choice location, warm atmosphere, great food for any occasion. Altitude's Bar and Grill, renowned for their top shelf live entertainment, blended with countless parties and celebrations. Altitude's is located at the top of South Beaver Street in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's rumored that the libations and vibrations are a peak attraction. Hey, stop by, say hi, tell them Cowboy Bob sent you. That's Altitude's Bar and Grill, overlooking historic Route 66 in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Destroy bad radio. Listen to Rock 107. Today's best music, Rock 107.
Well, we're back, and we're talking to Darrell Knoch, and the book he's written, Mastering a Healthy Self-Image, which I happen to read on the internet that it's one on Amazon's bestseller list. So it's a book that a lot of people are buying, and it's jam-packed with stuff that can tell you about improving your life. And Darrell, you were talking about dreaming just as we left, and I read in your book about setting goals. Now, can you connect dreaming with setting goals for me?
I certainly can. You know, dreaming, as I mentioned, is the precursor to accomplishment. So what I do is I like to set down, I will go into a dark room and I will just let my mind wander, and I start to daydream, and I start to think, and I start to visualize of, you know, some things that I might want to accomplish. And so as I do that, I say it's a must to write those things down. You know, that's what we call goals,
Right.
Things that we're going to reach. And, you know, I did some research over the course of a number of years, and I found out that if we write a goal down one time, rather than just verbalize it, I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon today. If I say that, then if I write it down, I'm 10 times more likely to accomplish that goal. I'm less likely to let other things distract me, and then I end up not going to the Grand Canyon that day. And, you know, goals can be simple goals. They don't have to be, you know, fantastic. I'm going to become a multimillionaire next week. They can be simple. I'm going to clean my bedroom, and I'm going to have it immaculate between now and next week. And here are the steps that I need to take in order to get there. You know, let's talk about, you know, I want to clean my bedroom. I'm having a guest come, so I want to clean it up because I want that guest room to be nice and neat for the guest. So my steps are, first I'm going to vacuum the floor. Then the next I'm going to pick up some of the things that probably have gotten laid on the dresser that don't need to be there anymore. So I'm going to reorganize. Maybe I'll throw a few things away. But I literally write down step by step, what's the next thing that I'm going to do? And so vacuum the floor, pick up the things on the dresser that need to be thrown away, organize, maybe put some things in a drawer. Then I'm going to dust the top of the dressers. I'm going to take the sheets off. I'm going to wash them. Step by step, simple things that help us get to, I need my bedroom clean for my guest to be, so that I'm proud of myself when he stays there. Or, let's say that you want to accomplish something different in life. You just step by step start, as you daydream and you visualize and you come to the conclusion of, here's what that goal is, you write it down, and then you start backing it out, so to speak, and then saying, okay, in order to get here, I need to get to this point, I need this thing to happen, I need that thing to happen, and you plan it out just like a vacation. If you're going to go on a vacation, you always are going to say, well, I need to fill up with gas, I need to look at the road map to see where I'm going and what route I'm going to take, I need to make sure I take some snacks along with me, I need to make sure I take some bottles of water with me. Though, going on that vacation is a goal, and putting all of the things that need to happen to get to that goal is the steps of writing out goals. Much more simple than most people think of a goal.
Yeah, it's difficult to sit down and write out goals, and it's difficult to really stick to the goal piece. There's so many things, like you said, distractions that can get in our way of, and if you just don't write it down, then you kind of forget.
It is easy to write to. It is easy to forget, and that's why it's so important to write it down. In fact, I read that if you write it down every day, let's say that I want to accomplish something between now and the next 6 months, and it is a little bit bigger of a goal, but every day I write down, I plan, as you mentioned, I've had the good fortune of becoming a top 10 author, and if I write down, I'm going to sell 5,000 more books in the next 3 months. I sold 5,000 last 3 months, so I'm going to sell another 5,000. What do I need to do in order to accomplish that? But it'd be easy to say, because I have to travel a lot. I'm tired. I'm 57 today, and but if I write it down every day, it reinforces that subconscious memory, and I start really my mind starts driving my body to that goal that I write down. And it's said that if you write a goal down every day, you're 100 times more likely to accomplish that goal. And as I mentioned earlier, 97% of the Americans die broke. So I'm saying, take some different steps. It isn't easy, but dying broke is not easy either.
No.
So take some steps today to say, I'm not going to be one of those 97% that dies broke. We're going to change that number to be maybe 90% instead of 97, and I'm going to be one of that 10% that does not die broke, and in order for me to do that, I've got to do something different than the rest of the world's doing.
Yeah, and in your book you talk about, well, at least perception I have is you talk about being goal-driven.
Right.
And then it kind of wear you out unless you get some gratification for yourself. And you talk about your Rolex.
I do. I think it's important to have systematic rewards for yourself. And, I do talk about the Rolex. 30 plus years ago, I set a goal for myself because at that time I felt like I wanted something, another anchor to tell myself I was successful. So I set a goal to buy a Rolex watch. I was in my mid to late 20s at that point, and that really became an important thing for me to accomplish, to have a Rolex, to say, you know what, you've made it somewhere in life, and now you've given yourself a gift, a reward for getting to that level of success. And so I think it's important that, let's say that I have a small goal, and so as a reward for that, reaching that goal, I say, I like going to the movies. Mm-hmm. So I say, I'm going to go to the movies on Friday if I reach this goal. And so because that gives me incentive, I go out and I do what I need to do, and I reach that goal, and then I go to the movies. Maybe I might want to have a goal of selling, let's say I'm going to sell 100 books this week. Mm-hmm. And I say, if I sell 100 books, then I'll reward myself by going out to dinner, mm-hmm. and, to a nice restaurant. And if I don't sell 100 books, then I can't go to that nice restaurant. And so that makes me strive to make sure that I get that goal. One, because it gives me pride in myself. If I set a goal and I accomplish it, I'm proud of myself. I'm asking the world, be proud of yourself. Dress yourself up a little bit more. Take pride in your life. You'll be much happier as a human being if you take pride in yourself.
Yes, and getting to pride, you also talk about taking part of your earnings and kind of they're setting them aside for your future.
Right.
And you also talk about measuring how important is it to buy that item of expensiveness. For instance, you talk about grooming. Right. I noticed when I was a businessman, I always appreciated when employees dressed well, because I knew they felt well about themselves and they were going to do a good job. But when they started to tear apart, they didn't shine your shoes, or they come in unironed shirts, I knew something was wrong. Tell us about that. How is it that how does one dress for success, and how does one really make determination is to reward themselves by putting aside part of the earnings that they make?
Well, one of the things that I'd like to say, first of all, is success means different things to different
right.
people. Someone doesn't have to go out and live their life the way I did and create $3 billion of revenue in 35 years. Success to someone else might have a totally different meaning than it was to me. I grew up so poor that money was a major goal for me, and so it drove me like a madman. And so, success means different things to different people, but the first thing that I like to say as a foundation stone is there is prosperity out there in the world for everybody. But number two is, if you want to become financially independent, you need to learn to live below your means.
Yes.
And I think that's a major statement, that if we learn to live below our means. Now, if I'm making $500 a week, that means in today's society, I can't save a lot of money because everything costs so much, but I need to learn to live on $450 a week, and put $500 or $50, into a savings account that is for my long-term retirement, my long-term ability to take care of myself when I'm old enough that I won't be able to. If I'm making $1,000 a week, then I think I need to learn to live on maybe $750 a week and put $250 away, because two things. One is, of that $250 or that $50, $10 needs to go into a reward fund, so that at the end of the week I've rewarded myself with a $10 dinner or a $10 new tie or whatever that might be. If I'm saving $250 a week because I'm making $1,000 a week, then I need to have $25 to maybe $100 of that going, and I'd say maybe $25 to $50 rather than $100 going into a reward fund, because we have to reward ourselves at least some in order to keep that excitement going in our life. If we don't have rewards, then how can we stay excited about next week? And so I think it is important to reward ourselves, but it's important that we make a conscious choice to say, here's my reward fund and here's my long-term savings fund. It isn't easy. It's always easy to say, I'll start saving next week, but we must take care of ourselves so we don't become some of that 97%.
I agree with you. The part about dressing for success, you talked about, going from the Rolex down to not necessarily buying the most expensive clothes.
Right.
And I can see that. I understand exactly what you're saying, because I think that your self-esteem dresses you more than the most expensive thread you can buy.
Well, one of the things I talk about is that if you don't spend every penny you have and you start saving some of that money, the larger your savings account becomes, the more self-esteem you have, because if you wear a shirt that costs $50, or you wear a shirt that's a nice shirt but it costs $20, and you put that $30 in your pocket, I happen to think that the larger your savings account is, the more you're going to feel good about knowing my future is secure, and you're going to feel good about, I know that I have the discipline to be able to manage my life where others don't have the discipline to manage their life, and that will raise your self-esteem also.
Yeah, I when I read that part in your book, it reminded me when I managed stores in Scottsdale. We'd have shoppers come in that they were dressed to the hilt, and their silk shirts and silk suits, and their checks bounced.
Wow.
And Mrs. Sakowitz came to my store, and Sakowitz, I'm sure she'd had the chain of Sakowitz stores, and she'd come in the store, and she looked very common. The lady that, our family, I remember her name, that owned the Ethan Allen stores, very common lady, and very nice people, not dressed to the hilt, and their checks didn't bounce.
Right. I think that's a very important point that you bring up. We've become a society that is so engrossed in showing my neighbor how much I have, to the point of living way beyond our means for the sake of that outer look of success. And I've found that certainly there are exceptions to every rule, but there's a book that was printed years ago called The Millionaire Next Door, and it talks about, as an example, I talk about the shirt that I wear.
Yes.
In fact, I'm wearing it today. This is a Land's End shirt that costs $29. It doesn't have any insignia on it to say, that it's whatever brand name it is. It's just a plain good shirt, but it really does a great job for me, and yet it allows me to put another $50 back into my savings account that I would have spent on buying a brand name shirt. And I know I've already said this, but I say it again, because it really needs to be emphasized. The size of your savings account will be much better for your self-esteem than that shirt that has somebody's name on it. What you're doing is you're giving a rich lifestyle to that person that has his name on your shirt, while you live a poor lifestyle. That doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. One of the pieces that I read in your book that, and I don't really know how to approach this, but I think it's very important, is negativism. And when we come back, I'd like for you to kind of go into that area and talk about the impact of negativism on your self-esteem.
Okay.
And when we come back.
Destroy bad radio. Listen to Rock 107. Today's best music, Rock 107.
It's said that altitude is but a frame of mind. Altitudes can be found amongst the pines. Altitudes Bar and Grill, that is. Choice location, warm atmosphere, great food for any occasion. Altitudes Bar and Grill, renowned for their top shelf live entertainment, blended with countless parties and celebrations. Altitudes is located at the top of South Beaver Street in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's rumored that the libations and vibrations are a peak attraction. Hey, stop by, say hi, tell them Cowboy Bob sent you. That's Altitudes Bar and Grill, overlooking historic Route 66 in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Hi. Paw Placement in Northern Arizona was formed in 2006 to assist the Coconino Humane Association with the overflow of animals. So we are an all-volunteer, all-foster-based organization. We don't have a shelter. And this is our new adoption center at the Flagstaff Mall called Rescue Me Pet Adoption Center. And we take animals at risk. So we take them from Coconino Humane, put them in foster homes, and adopt them out. Rescue Me Pet Adoption Center.
We're back with Darrell Knoch, who's written this fantastic book on mastering a healthy self-image. And Darrell, we're back, and tell us about the impact of negativism on your self-image.
Well, as an example, one of the things that my dad always told me when he did come back to town is he always would say, you're lazy, you're not very productive, you got a big mouth. I think your big mouth's going to get you in trouble. He said, he would tell me all the time, you got a big mouth. You need to learn to manage your mouth a little bit better. And so, you're a bad kid. You just don't do things when I tell you to do something. You need to jump when I talk to you. And he'd always kind of just bring that negative mindset into everything that was around. And you can't help but drive your self-esteem into the ground when you have those kinds of thoughts. And so I believe that we need to retrain ourselves to be more positive. And I know that's easier said than done, but if you start working on it, you can accomplish that. And instead of saying, man, I'm not sure, is it going to rain today? I may or may not be able to get this done. If saying, I think the sun is going to shine from 3 to 5 today. It may be raining in the morning, but the sun's going to shine from 3 to 5, and that's when I'm going to get what I need to get done outside. We have to reframe, so to speak, what we say to ourselves. If we made a mistake, we say, we always are saying things, in the past, things I said to myself, well, why'd they do that? That was stupid. That's not good for our self-esteem to be talking to ourselves that way, of saying, wow, I just learned a good lesson. I did something that cost me $50 today that I shouldn't have done, but boy, that was a good lesson to learn, because I won't do that again. And so we start rethinking the way we talk to ourselves. That really changes and raises our self-esteem.
I know in the book you treat a very touchy area about negative relationships.
Right.
And you talk from a personal perspective, and I think one that reads your book cannot help but relate to it. Can you share that with us?
Well, I believe that any interaction we have with another human being touches a life. If it's your wife, if it's your children, if it's your employees, if it's your employer, if it's some of your friends, any interaction we have touches somebody's life and changes it in some form or fashion. So if we change the way we interact with people, then we'll change the way they will react to us. And so, it's all too easy to, if you're not feeling well and somebody does something, to snap at them and to say, what'd you do that for? Aren't you paying attention to me? Don't you care about me? But, that type of an attitude really degrades your relationship with that other person. And so if we can train ourselves to not be so, short-fused, I guess you might say, and really think before we, one of the things I started talking to myself about is changing what I thought before I opened my mouth. And so if I would think through what I was about to say before I said it, I realized I was building better relationships with my mates, my business customers, my friends, my neighbors, my relatives, my parents, my brothers and sisters. If I thought it through more before I said it, then I said it in a better way that I helped build that relationship rather than tear it down.
Well, it does help to think ahead of what you're going to say, because having been a businessman, the quick response is to go right to the meat and say it.
Right.
And sometimes when you deliver it like that, it's not received in the manner you wanted it to be received. So you have to step back and frame it in a better way that's more acceptable and that the person is able to absorb it.
And like you said, they accept it much better if it's a little softer. Growing up that negative, crass, snappy little boy with some spunk, sometimes I was right at your throat, so to speak.
Yes.
And I realized that didn't get the results that I was looking for from that other person as much as if I were much softer in my approach. And I gently requested that they help me with something rather than demanding that they help me with something. They were much more willing. And one of the things that goes along with that is kind of in the attitude of this gratitude coin, praise really brings back many times more results than anger. If you say to someone, I'm really proud of what you just did, I really believe what you just did was so helpful to me that I really want to thank you. Every time you praise someone, you raise their self-esteem, but you also raise your self-esteem because you know you handled that situation in a much better fashion.
Yeah, you alluded to your gratitude coin again, and it's a powerful piece. Just saying thank you and appreciating people. One thing my wife has got me in the habit of doing is when we go out to eat is we always tip at least 20%.
Yeah.
And my wife says, I don't care what kind of service that person delivered, because you don't know the environment in which that person lives in this business. And they deserve to know that at least somebody appreciates what little they might have done.
And, I do that very same thing. I have chosen to always tip 20% because, wait staff typically is not a high-paying job.
No, it's not.
And so, and I, over the course of years, we probably all know that someone that's waiting on you probably gets more people saying how bad the food is, the job they did. They always hear the negative, but they rarely hear the positive. And that's one of the reasons I use the gratitude coin is I make a real point of saying, I really appreciate, I'm praising the job that you've done in taking care of me, and I want you to have this so that you know that I've praised you. And I have had so many people tell me that I have made their day because I took that extra step of not only just giving them the 20%, I made a point of telling them, in addition, you did a great job, you had a great smile. There's always something I can choose to say, this was really good that you did for me. And when I go back to that same person, I promise you my service is many times better. If I go back and that same person is there and I've taken the time to praise them and give them that gratitude coin and give them that little bit of an extra tip, they make sure they take even better care of me the next time.
Yeah, it's a small measure, but it means so much to people.
It does.
So much to people. And the fact that we took time to say it and do it.
I mean, think of it of yourself. don't you feel good when somebody says, Joe, I really appreciate what you've done for me today? You know, and so no matter who we are, if we have someone tell us that they appreciate what we've done, we feel good. So why wouldn't we want to tell others how much we appreciate them? Because we know that's going to make them feel good also. And you know, the old saying is, you can't make somebody else feel good and not feel good back in return.
Exactly.
It wins double every time.
Yeah, there's so much to learn from Darrell's book here, not only from your own personal and inner life about yourself, but your external life. And also, if you're a businessman, there's a lot of stuff here that if you implement it at your home or in your personal life, it'll also affect your external life, which I mean is your employees. And that creates a domino effect, as I found, in your employees, that it also affects their home lives. Because if they're treated well in the work environment, they go home and treat their families well.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, one of the things that I get the opportunity to do a lot of radio shows around the country, and I do a lot of business shows because I do talk a lot about business mentality in this book as well. But it even though I talk about it as business mentality, it's life mentality.
Yes.
But I get asked all the time, you know, how do I get my employees to have a better attitude? And one of the things I always say is lead by example. You have a better attitude, you give gratitude to your employees, and they will have a better attitude because you've led by example.
Yes. Today we've had Darrell Knoch, who has written this powerful book on mastering a healthy self-image. And if you read it, which you must, you can't help but change your life. Because when you invest the time in reading this, it will automatically go into your subsystem, I guess.
Right.
And you will be putting this stuff to work, even without knowing it. And when you come back to the book and read it, and it could be the 16th time that you read it, that every time you read it, you'll find stuff that you overlooked. Darrell, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate you having as a guest on our show.
Well, I really appreciate you letting me be here. Thank you so much.